second B1, B2 playoff between Stanley, John, Austin, and Ada. As of right now, we have a pretty clear split.
Yeah, real tight scores. Stanley, although has quite a decent lead so far. John barely above the starting points. Austin a little bit below, and Ada following behind, but not too far behind to make a comeback in these last two games.
And so, what you're thinking going in here, obviously, for Stanley, you probably want to stay out of the scrum, but you still don't want to lose too much. Something also to pay attention to is because of someone that was going to advance to B1 next season decided to drop out. So there is an extra B1 slot that's available, but it will go to the highest third place between this one or the other B1, B2 playoff.
And that other B1, B2 playoff has already finished their 4 games. Currently in third place is Ash with negative 16.8. So if one of these players, third place players, can find themselves above that mark, they will also find themselves in the B1 league.
It's really important to understand not only your own win condition, but everyone else's. And it's a lot easier to say, hey, I just need to be third with minus 16.7 or better than second, where I'm completely fighting with everyone. I don't have a determined final score. It's all relative.
Right? It will be interesting to see how all these players manage the placement bonuses and everything in these last 2 games, knowing that there are 3 slots to play for. I think, especially even if you're in deep fourth, there's still chances to make there. So in this third game, you're trying to uh, just get close enough to make sure that in the last game you've got a chance.
Yes, even fourth place, Ada is only, what, 25 points back roughly of what she needs. So even if she takes a small hit here, there's still time to come back in the last game.
And you don't need to necessarily fight for a huge first. You can take 2 good second places and still maybe be able to make it, or a second place and a small first. It doesn't need to be a massive score.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'd have my calculator up and ready, especially when we get into that fourth game.
Absolutely. Looks like we're getting into this first one.
And looking at the starting hands, Ranjan has a potential Itsu, potential Dora, Pinfu, bunch of Penchan, possibly even some sort of Junchan, but pulls in the 9-pin. Off to the right, Kitty Loaf has a possible 1-2-3 Sanshoku, a really nice shape in Pen. Maybe even a second Dora could come in, pairs up something with a 9 so very nicely. Across from us, we have a bunch of pairs, and honestly, probably pretty slow hand when we look at the others. And off to the left, we have really nice shape in Manzu and a 1-3-5 in So. Probably needs a couple draws to put it together, but overall, pretty good.
Yeah, I'm really liking to see a potential Itsu for our dealer who is pretty close to 10 by a couple good draws, and they'll be there. We've got Adora now picked up by our dealer as well, so this could be a pretty valuable hand.
Well, you need your pair, and what you're afraid of doing is drawing the 1-so or the 2-so. We're like, I guess I have to take it, but a Manzu tile won't do any good.
The perfect draw would be pairing up that 6-pin. Itsu Dora 2 as dealer would be an incredible start.
Yes, you're going to be stuck on that 3-so, especially with one out, but you'd be perfectly fine with that situation.
Looking at Ada to the right, this is Ishan 10 already, although that Penchan in the pins is awkward.
Well, didn't pair up the 6-pin, but got the 9-pin, and that'll be good enough. Needs a 3-so and hopefully the 9-so.
Yeah, 2 9-so in Ada's hand, one already on the table, so it's looking a little bit difficult.
Now,
And
off to the right, that's a really awkward Ishan 10. Actually takes the Ryanshan 10 for a lot more value.
yeah, Ada on the right is in fourth right now and wants to make as much value as possible, and has Austin's hand across from us improved since the start.
Only if you think Cheetoy is an improvement.
Well, I
It is an
certainly,
Ishan 10 now for Richi Nomi, which isn't that great. You're looking for a lot more here, though.
yeah, in the third position, Austin really wants to find some value too, but winning a reach, advancing the dealership would be a bad start.
It really looks like a two-person race with Ron. Oh no, that's the worst draw. I mean, you have to probably take the Ricci Dora as dealer, but that's the worst tile to draw. Oh no, and this is why you take the Ricci,
Well, that's
especially given Ada's feed rate having gone so long
Yeet.
that very likely would have come out, and now realizes it, throws the stick in, but two of those three so are dead now. And at the same time, Ada picks up the 9-pin, has a very wide Ishan 10 for Ricci Pinfu Dora.
would ideally like to pick up a 4-7 pin here. Be very nice to wait on the 1-4 in the Manzu. And the 3, a little bit of a decision here, but taking a
Bit
perfect
unfortunate there, throwing the 1, picking the incorrect pair based on the final draws. But when you see what's on the board, it seemed like the correct decision at the time.
And we see only 1-3 still remains in the wall.
Ada's sitting here in perfect Ishan 10, but needs that last tile. And this is Ron John's hand to lose. The problem is, as you said, there's only 1-3 so left. And here's the chase for Ricci, possible San Anko.
Yeah, 6 is
but the
Nakatsuchi there.
Ipatsu might come out. That last north that Orasol's holding could come out anytime.
Danger for Orasol here, who is this hand doesn't look like one you really want to push with. There's no Dora, there's not really any value here, so perhaps against 2 reach, just play Genbutsu tiles.
Yes, if you can get that far. The problem is it looks pretty safe. Well, now it looks ridiculously safe.
Yeah, this could be trouble.
I think the 9-pin may come out first, though, because it's Tsuji. Okay, the one mon comes out. There are a whole bunch of 2s out.
Well, Ada picks up the 4-pin, but in the meantime had started to throw away that 2-pin pair, so not in Tenpai here, and actually seems to be folding. Well, you get another chance with the 5. So we find Gyukyoku, Tenpai for Ranjan, and Austin, the 2 players who had gone reach.
You're disappointed by that result as dealer, thinking I probably could have won with that 3 so earlier. Going to kick himself and reviews the log. But anyway, moving on to East 1 with the next Homba, we have a possible Chanta, distant Sanshuku Dora. Decent shapes, but you need something around Dora to fix it. Off on the right, we have a whole bunch of disconnected garbage. There's a Dora, but that's about it. Across from us, we have a few pairs and really not much else. And off on the left, yuck. Overall, I hate every one of these hands. Ron John's is okay, but yeah.
I'm kind of a fan of Ranjan's hand. There's another great pickup, and we could see Chanta here. Ishanten already. And unfortunately, though, that doesn't quite incorporate the Doro. If you do pick up the Dora 8 so, you can perhaps discard the 1 mon, take a really nice Ishanten for potential Sanchoku on top of that.
Yeah, Headley's Ishan 10 with an Anko is going to be very strong efficiency. Ooh, that 2-pin draw drastically helps Kirillov's hand. Could probably throw the 6-pin here. Goes and decides the 4 mon's also isolate and gets rid of it. That's also looking like a Junchan type hand.
Yeah, with that 4 mon discard, definitely feels like Ada is thinking Junchan here. And well, that certainly helps, picking up the 9-pin to complete the Anko and the Pinzu.
The question is, what are you going to do with that Dora? Do you just hold it? Do you try to integrate it? Like right here, do you call the 3 so?
A decision point for Ada does choose to call that and discard the Dora. So hanging on to that bird for potential Junchan.
It'll just be Junchan, but maybe you can always Daiminkan the 9-pin if it comes out.
Yeah, with needing points, it'll be interesting to see if they choose that.
I hate that play. Now Ada is Tenpai, but with no Yaku and no obvious improvements.
Well, perhaps the Yaku is going to be Rinshan. We'll see. It looks like we've seen a Chu come out, but Stanley not choosing to call on the left. Stanley not really needing to fight for small hands here.
Well, Austin decides to try and lock in the Itsu. We'll need the 7 so at some point.
Yeah, and although this is open E2, there is a Dora, and there's two Ricci sticks in the pot, so 2,300 also to fight for, including the Homba. And
Yes, you're
now,
perfectly fine with. Oh, there's Tempai throwing the 3 Mon, waiting on the 7 Zodor indicator, which would be 2,300 and the 2,000 in the Ricci sticks.
and right now, Ranjan holding on to that lone 7 so can still use that if he were to draw Dora. Oh, pairs it up now.
Well,
Jeez.
that's an easy answer.
Let's
Take
check.
your Ichinomi and say, well, I wish I got more, but we'll take it. And that kind of completely shuts down Austin's hand. There is 1 7 so left in the entire wall.
Austin doesn't know that that pair's there. We'll see if he's willing to fight against the Steeler Reach or how far he's willing to fight.
Decides to push the 2 so with the early
Sumo.
3 so and 3 so discard, but here's the Sumo. Ricci Sumo. No aura, but gets the big stack in the middle.
So John up to an early lead, 3,500.
As we move on to the next Homba, we have some actually pretty good shapes here. Possibly Peiko, flexible shapes in Mon for the dealer. Off to the right, we have another beautiful Pinfu type hand. Across from us, we have an East Anko, possible Honitsu shift, especially with that 7 Mon draw. And off to the left, we have a couple 4/5s, pair. Decent shapes, just not too much value unless that Dora gets paired up.
Well, I love the shapes from the dealer and has been picking up excellent draws in the Manzu and the Pinzu. A little bit of a backfire on the 5 so there, but looks to be speeding along. And that set of east winds in Austin's hand allows him to call Chi on the 7, 8, 9 Pinzu shape. Not a
Gets rid
tremendous
of
amount of
one of
value here.
his bad shapes. Probably isn't seeing much in this hand right now, especially needing the 7 pin and the 3 so.
Well, Ishan 10 now found for John. A potential Ipeko on the Manzu would be ideal to get 3 or 6 mon here. And even if you were to pull the 4 or 5, that's a complex weight there.
No, in the
As well.
meantime, Ada's picked up a really nice Ishan 10 for Sanshuku, needing the 2 Mon.
Oh, there's a con for Austin, choosing to try to increase his value. Unfortunately, the new indicator is the 6 so, and 2 7 so have been discarded already by Austin.
Now, Ada could call this and take temp by waiting on the 2 Mon, which very likely comes out right here. Which it does for the Sanshuku only, but with 2 Homba, it's a direct hit for 1,600 on Austin.
This puts Ada in second place now. We move on to East 2.
As we look at the hands, really nice tiles in So and a really obnoxious shape in Mon. Off to the right, we have a bunch of disconnected tiles that with a couple draws turns into something really nice, but doesn't look like much yet. Across from us, we have 4 pairs. 4 Tanya pairs, 2 Dora. Could call, could go for Chi Toy, all sorts of options. And off to the left, we have some pretty good shapes, but similarly, a lot of pairs.
Yeah, seems to be a lot of pairs in this, and Ada, unfortunately, those first couple draws haven't been spectacular. In the past round, we didn't see very many Dora in anyone's hands, but Austin, or rather Stanley, now picking up the third. This looks to be
That's a
value hand for
huge
sure.
draw. You're just looking to start calling now. The problem is that obnoxious 1 pin. The 5/5/3 is only going to be 1 shape. So you're going to need something else.
Yeah, the 4/7 is great. You can pick up any of those inner Manzu tiles and create a Yamen shape. John with the option of calling there, but chooses against it, hanging on to those pairs. And again, Ada still with that 2, 4, 6, 8 Manzu shape, so difficult to deal with. And here's another pair.
And you're just looking at this and getting more frustrated. And off on the left, John has had the same basic problem. Keep drawing things that don't really progress the hand. Need to go work around a bit. Ends up cutting from the 9 so pair.
It looks like John's aiming for Tanyao now. And well, that might be helpful for Stanley. decides to discard that one pin. Seems to be aiming for Tanyao as well, especially with those three Dora.
Yeah, Stanley decides to give up on anything close. I imagine this should be an instant call.
Now chooses the 7 mon as the discard.
Well, you don't want to draw the 8, then have to pray that you don't draw the 9.
Yeah, 4 feels much better in that sense. Well, this is a sequence found for Ada.
Does
2,
get
3.
to Ishan 10. Oh, doesn't take the Ishan 10. Could have thrown 3 so there.
I wonder if maybe dreaming about the potential for Ipeco.
Ipeco, I mean, that's a great draw for Ipeco. You still have the 6, which can connect to the Dora. So there are paths forward for sure. And Stanley says, I'll take my perfect Ishan 10 for Mongon, thanks.
Oh, this is Tempai, but
It's Tempai, but it's an ugly one. Do you cut the 1-2 so maybe? Given how Ada's been playing, it wouldn't surprise me. But goes ahead and takes the standard Tonki, which could be switched, and particularly which anything that connects in Mon will give a ridiculously wide weight, but a lot of them are 4E10.
yeah, technically that 6 was the winning tile, but no Yaku here, so you cannot call Ron. And still waiting to find the ideal tile to declare reach. Which normally would be the 5 on here, but you'd be free to.
Ew. I mean, you could reach you on the 6 pin, take the
Suji trap.
Suji, but Suji Richi isn't that strong, but you have the early 1 pin, so it's possible it comes out. Now, when you're in Austin's position, I probably call with the 7-8, figuring this isn't going anywhere otherwise.
And there's another 1 pin, so the lower Pinzu. Maybe making the 3 look a bit safer.
And Austin is in Ishanten now.
We'll have to discard one of those Pinzu tiles, though. And you don't really want to drop something along the door line, 5 or 8.
Well, this is the first real question. You push the 3-mon and says, no.
And oddly enough, Stanley, who's been in a perfect Ishan 10 for a long time, has not found Tempai. Austin has not been very helpful in that sense. And here's
this
a
could
3.
deal in. Yes, the 3-pin does deal in for Ricci. Are there any aura?
One
does
found.
hit 1 aura, so 3,900 plus the Ricci stick back.
Well, this is great for Ada. She's moving up in the standings and also dropping Stanley down. Now, Stanley was in first place after 2 games with 62 points, 62.8.
And Ada has a double Yakuhai, which is called immediately. Shapes other than that aren't great, but it's something, and you'll take it, especially when you're sitting where she is in the standings. Off to the right, we have another set of really good shapes, but may get stuck on needing a 3-mon. Across from us, we have, wow. Those are beautiful.
I love this.
You just got so you're going to end up cutting the 4-pin next, and it's going to be Tanyao. Not much value, but it'll get the hands moving on, which when you're sitting at plus 62.8 overall, you're fine with that. And off to the left, we have maybe 789 Sanshoku. Really, the shapes aren't coming together yet, though. And when we look at the other hands, it looks bad.
Yeah, the Dora pair of 9-mon in the hand of John on the left. Despite the awkward shapes, that's where the value seems to be outside of our dealer, double Yakuhai.
Well,
and
yes, if you can get the East, double East, and then, right here. Well, now you already have 3 Han. You're thinking, okay, is there a way to make it 4?
Yeah, here a dealer Mongon would be huge.
Just goes and takes the efficient play, says, I'm not going to worry about maybe connecting to Dora. This is a lot of value. I'll just take it.
A great pickup for Austin here, pulling the 7-so, and has to decide which of the efficient shapes do you want to make less efficient. Chooses the Pinzu. Good pickup for Kitty here now. 3-4 so Yamen.
But
Austin
not the first
Tempai.
attempt by, as we have a Ricci, Pinfu, Tanyao. Really awkward shape when you use all 4 6-so and it's still Pinfu.
Well, Ada now finding Tempai waiting on the 4-mon that had just been discarded.
Yes, if anyone's playing defense, that very likely can come out.
Well, here's an 8 pin for John, but he needs that.
You could call, but decides not to. Again, Stanley's sitting here with his big lead. It doesn't need to do anything. You don't want to take this fourth, but oh, there's the sumo. Ricci, sumo, Pinfu, Tanyao.
Check the Una. None
No
found.
Ura, but still picks up the 5,200.
Well,
And we'll
dealership
move on to
moves
East
on.
3. And those are some really nice shapes in Pin, maybe even in Itsu, if not a really nice Pinfu, possibly Tanyao, maybe in a Peiko now with that 7-so draw. Off to the right, we have pretty standard Pinfu type shapes, not much value, but that could get to temp by fairly quickly. Across from us, we have decent shapes in So, but really the hand feels slow. And off to the left, we have beautiful draw there with the 8 Mon, looking at potential Itsu, possibly Pinfudora 2, and that's a pretty good hand.
Yeah, best shapes seem to be in our dealer's hand, but the value looks great to the left.
Well, with that, dealer now moves to Ishan 10 for Ricci Tanya and Pinfu if the 7 Mon is drawn. Ooh, speaking of big draws, there's a third Dora off to the left.
And Ishan 10 there as well, so just find a pair. And there's so many draws you can get for that. Most of the Manzu will work, not that one.
Ooh, now you're thinking, do I upgrade this to Itsu? I'd cut the 9-7 pin. And does just that. Interesting draw there for Austin. Decides to go ahead and cut the 7, so might have just wanted to cut the 6-8 Mon, but doesn't dream of Rion Peiko.
Maybe that's a bit too much. After all, Austin is dealer, and anyone here would be good. Don't need all the value. And to the right, it looks like Stanley is, well, kind of making a little bit of progress. Still Yanshan 10, but has good Pinfu shapes.
And John just keeps shifting towards Tanyao. Starting to look actually feasible now after a whole bunch of shifting.
8-Mon doesn't help here. And Ada's been kind of stuck.
Yeah, Ada's absolutely frustrated now. So Austin here should throw the 7, so yeah, make sure to take the option to end up on the Sanshoku.
Yeah, I'm sure Austin's been keeping Sanshoku in the back of his head as we've been going through this. Oh no.
But he keeps getting fed 7, so. And in the meantime, we have a Ricci Pinfu waiting on 4-7. But I bet this is going to be not an immediate chase, but you're pushing into this with 3 Dora.
Unfortunately for Stanley, we see all 4-7 already discarded, 7-so.
So you're just waiting on the 4-so, and we see 3 of them here. So wait's looking pretty bad.
It's like a Tanki wait for Pinfu. How many times do you see that?
I've seen it plenty of times, and I barf every time I have to face it.
Well, let's see. Does Austin want to push 8 here? You can see the 7s.
Well, you have the Kabe of the 7, and there's 1 8, so it should look pretty safe.
Yeah, perhaps thinking, why was the 9 so declared for Rich? But that was a fairly safe tile.
Ooh, could call that, decides not to. You're really worried about throwing those Mon tiles now if you're Austin, because they all look terrible.
Yeah, none found in Stanley's discards. And we see a reach from John now.
And Discipline throws the 3-so, which is safe, instead of the 4-so that would have dealt in, and is rewarded with the Ipatsu, Ricci, Ipatsu Tanyao. No aura, but does pick up the 5,200 and the 2 Ricci sticks in the middle, and we move on to East 4.
Good play from John there, and so Stanley
Beautiful starting hand for Stanley. You're thinking Itsu, maybe some Dora, even Sanshoku with the 2-3-4, all sorts of possibilities. Off to the right, we have some pairs, a really nice pin shape, but things need to connect. 5-6-7 Sanshoku looks pretty good, though. Across from us, we have another reasonably good shape. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 obvious blocks. The 2 Dora. Ooh, that completes an. Oh, I would never have thrown that 9 so. You could just throw the 2 so and the 8 pin and you're in Tempai.
Mm.
But decides to go for a little greed. And off to the left we have, well, I'm not sure, but I think that qualifies as a Hanitsu hand.
Yeah, I'm fighting for Honitsu the hand every day of the week. And Stanley also started picking up some more Pinzu tiles, but with the 2, 3, and 6, 7 mon, it seems that
Okay, well, Ada drew
uses
the
that
next
card.
9 so, realized, hey, that probably wasn't a brilliant idea, and decides to keep this one. Then draws into Tempai and is waiting on the 8 mon for Ricci Dora 2.
And 8 mon had just been discarded by John, who was quite fortunate to get that out of the way early. Still, 3 remain in the wall. And
Well, when you look at that pond, you're going, well, what am I supposed to throw?
right. No signals really here for other players to work with. And well, Austin, fighting for their Honitsu and the Sozu, just has to keep fighting this.
It's a pretty nice Ishanten, and that'll be Tempai waiting on 8 so and Hatsu, and the Hatsu is Gibutsu, and the 8 so comes out immediately. So it takes the 2,000 and the Ricci sticks, so 3,000, not bad. We move on to South Round.
Yeah, in the South Round, now the players are starting to look at their position a little bit.
Wow, what a nice hand to wake up with. A pair, 2 Ryanman, and a Anko of your seat wind as dealer. That could very well be Hanitsu, could be a normal hand. And, oh, by the way, the 2 Dora. Off to the right, we have some shapes that need a little bit of help. You can see the obvious 5 shapes there, but I'm not seeing much value. Across from us, we have a Hatsu pair and some pretty decent shapes. Maybe a shift to 2, 3, 4 Sanshoku with some good draws, but probably just a cheap washaway hand. And off to the left, we have, what, 4, 5, 6 Sanshoku? Still need some more draws to put it together, though.
Yeah, it seems the dealer has absorbed all the value, but the hand across the way, Austin, perhaps very fast. Although John
yeah, I
calling,
love the 6 mon call. You get rid of your really bad shape. You still have plenty of value. If something turns into a set, you're looking at 7,800 sumo. So, like just like that. Now you can call the 1 pin or the 5 pin.
1 pin for immediate Mangan, and still yet to be found in the rest of the hands.
This is one where you have to start thinking about fu. If you call the 5 pin, then a sumo will actually push you to 40 fu.
Oh,
But in the
found.
meantime, and it may come right out. Okay, does not throw the Hatsu, but it is a 2 mon Hatsu wait for Ricci and then maybe Hatsu.
Stanley choosing to discard the slightly safer Haku for the time being, avoids the Ipatsu Dilan. Still has some safe tiles. 8 pin was discarded.
Ooh, that's a very tempting tile to call, but you can't do anything with the 9 pin anyway, so.
Rajan still Ishan 10.
You want to push so hard with that because you know you have more value than anyone else, but you have to get it connected.
Oh, there it is.
That'll do it. Waiting on the 4-5 pin for dealer Mongon.
Yeah, had the choice to take the 6 pin
Ooh, do you
Kanchan.
con this?
Does not. Well, you already have Mongon here, and adding an extra Han doesn't bump you up.
You could
However,
also, yeah, well, that's another issue is if you call the con there, you know you have the bad weight, but if they're going to throw it anyway, you'll take the 12,000 and the Ricci stick for 13,000, and John's really starting to take control of this table up. What, 18,000 on second place. Look at these hands. We have some decent shapes, but needs to put a few things together with 3-6 and 3-6-9. Off to the right, we have a Yakuhai pair, a Dora, and annoying Penchan. But other than that, there's some potential here. And you can always speed things up. Across from us, we have, I don't know, a distant Itsu? Not even that. Really desperately needing the 3 so to improve that hand. And off on the left, maybe a Chinitsu. If not, maybe Itsu. You have that Dora that can connect, so probably Pinfu, and if it upgrades, great. And speaking of upgrades, that 5 mon really helps.
Yeah, everyone around about in the same position in terms of speed here, although Ada with a pair of Haku can go a little bit faster. However, after dealing in 12,000 points, you really want to make some of that back with the reach. I wonder if a Haku comes out, if that'll be called, or if you pass the first one.
Well, you do have the Dora and you still have your dealer turn, but like you said, you really want to get back in this game. And 30,000 looks so far away right now. Admittedly, the 2,000 put you within striking range with the dealer Mongon in the next hand, but you'd like more.
Looking to the left, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 9. So we almost have a completed Itsu, and still that lone Dora hanging out in the hand. More
And
Pinzu for
says,
John.
yeah, let's just go for the Itsu and forget the rest of this. In the meantime, yes, John picks up a really nice shape in pin, but still not even Ishan 10, but a very wide Ryanshan 10.
7 doesn't help. We see the Haku find its way into Stanley's hand, who's not willing to discard that just yet. We
Oh,
don't.
that 3 mon is a great draw. You can cut the 2 pin here, and you have a lot of options to go forward.
Perhaps will find reach after all. Well, a connector towel for Stanley now picking up the 3 so, and the Haku comes out. Ada
Goes
does.
ahead and takes it, says, we're getting late. I'm getting a little concerned. And I don't blame her at all. When you're at turn 10 and you're not seeing anything, and everyone's throwing mid tiles, you should be a little concerned.
Yeah, halfway through the second row, you feel someone's got to be close to 10 high.
As we can tell, they are, but the
And he
question is
gets,
how much value is going to come from it.
yeah,
Ooh,
he's the one who
great
gets
draw
first.
there for John. Now upgrades to Ricci, Pinfu, possibly Dora. Speaking of nice draws, though, the 6-so upgrade, you can throw the 4-mon and you have a perfect Ishan 10.
And potential to improve to even Ipeko, except the 7 pin had already been discarded, so maybe not.
Decides to lock in the head and say, I like the floating 4-mon. Ooh, there you go. This will be Ricci for Ricci Itsu Dora.
Nice Suji trap on
Oh,
the
and it
8
might come
mon.
right out. And it
Will
does.
Suji.
Ricci, Ipatsu, Itsu, Dora. Will there be an aura for Hanemon? There is 12,000. Huge boost.
Well, this is great for Stanley, who had been dropping down, was in 4th place before that Haneman, and now it's Ada who finds herself in 4th. But second dealership, this is her chance.
Yes, you have to capitalize here. This is great news for everyone at the table, except for John, of course, who dealt in, because John was starting to pull away from the pack.
Yeah, John was in 2nd to begin with, but still has a 1st place lead and doesn't need to worry too much just yet.
Goes in and calls the 9-man, probably going for a Chinitsu shift. A long way away, though. I'm not sure on that call.
Open
Also
Chinitsu.
gives up the possible Chitoitsu, which he wasn't that far off of.
But maybe sensing, how far back, not only in the standings after the first 2 games, but also in this game now, needs to make the maximum value play.
Yes,
Second
at this
call.
point, if you can get that dealer Chinitsu Dora 3, which is probably the shapes you'd need here, that will get you back in range.
Desperately wants to drop a 3rd 8-mon.
But meanwhile, off to the right, we have some decent shapes in the Yakuhai pair. Across from us, we have some beautiful shapes and an Ishan 10. Ooh, can go headless, can dump a whole bunch of stuff. That's an interesting draw with the 4-so.
Very curious to see how Stanley handles this. You probably want to keep the 6-7 shape where it is and decide to
Besides,
choose
maybe
the
we end up
Pinzu.
Nobiton, that's fine. And off on the left, we have decent shapes, but just trying to call and move the hands along. Sitting in first place, moving towards South 3. But that assumes you get to South 3. And in the meantime, we have a Dama on the 5-8 pin with 2 of the 8 pins already discarded. It doesn't look that great.
Yeah, 8-pin, though, looks really hard to use for all the players with all the 7s gone. Still one remains, but nobody seems to need upper Pinzu. So we might see that flow out naturally from anyone's hand.
Now, you're also hoping to draw like a 7-so and have a 3-sided weight. Could even call here and wait on 4-7, but
Yeah,
with
7
all the 4-so being out now, it doesn't look that good.
switches the 5-mon to the Dora 8-mon, and is willing to continue to push Manzu tiles against this Honitsu or Chinitsu from Ada, because Ada hasn't really dropped any honor tiles or any overflowing Manzu yet.
Well, that's the first one, and the hand's looking about like you'd expect it to. You have the completed shape, you need a pair, and you need a third shape as well.
Yeah,
Ooh,
each
now
of
that
them.
7-so is a little more dangerous, but just goes ahead and throws it anyway.
You can pull a 3-mon or a 7-mon your Tempai, but it looks like the
Now,
3-mon and
you
7-mon are
could
hard to
reach
find.
here on the 8-pin, or upgrade to Pinfu Tanya Dora regardless. Goes ahead and stays Dom. Ooh, great draw there for Ada. Ooh. Oh no, that's an immediate backfire. Cutting the tune, getting a little too greedy here.
I wonder though if Austin is discarding that tune only because it came out of Ada's
Oh,
hand.
almost certainly. But even so, you need a pair to fix this hand. You're worried you may not even get to Tempai by the end of the hand, and that'd be an absolute disaster. And you know that tune would have come out.
Still no 4-7 seen yet. Stanley's been Tempai for a long time here without seeing his tile. Yeah, Austin's playing maximum safety here.
Well, you just don't want to get yourself in a bad position, because we
Can
saw what
con
happened to
here.
Ada. You
Can
could
con.
con to deny the dealer another draw. And if you have safe tiles, that actually is what I would do.
Yeah, the 1-pin looked fairly safe there. Instead, looks like Ada will get that last draw, and
End
it's
up no 10, and Stanley picks up the 3,000 as the only person Tempai, and Ada loses her last dealership, already being in 4th place going into this match and looking to likely take another deep 4th. That's a really rough position, but we're now in South 3, and dealer has a Yakuhai pair and a couple other pairs. Okay, there was. It was not a stream freeze. We actually had just actual delay thinking about what was happening. Off on the right, we have possible Tanya, really nice shape in pin and so, and now pairs up the Mons. Everything looks pretty good. Across the way, we have a pair of Souths and a hand that looks pretty cheap and pretty fast if the last one comes out, because the third is being used as the door indicator. Off on the left, we have, well, those are shapes. There are a couple Rionman, 3 Rionman actually. So you draw the 8-mon, and there's some potential there, but I don't like the hand at all.
yeah, unfortunately for Ada, she really wants to be able to craft some sort of hand to grab some value to come back in this, but everyone else at the table has incentive to end this hand as quickly as possible. Austin already calling the tune and trying to just take another round as dealer, and for Stanley to the right and John across, they both have what looks to be potentially very fast hands, and also have no
The
problem with their
incentive to
current
pursue
positions.
best hands. Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
Stanley being in first place overall in the standings, even in second place, would be very happy for this to end. And of course, John in first place, also happy for this to end.
Right. Austin's like, I probably need a few more points going into the last match. And go ahead and calling, trying to get something, defend that dealer turn. Shapes are pretty bad, but as dealer, you'd be perfectly fine moving on.
Yeah, Ada still struggling a little bit to pull a hand together, and we haven't really seen the Dora tile, have we?
Well, it's really hard for anyone to use other than the open hand.
Yeah, if you
And
can,
even then, it'd be as a pair.
right.
Ooh, interesting draw with the 1-pin here. Goes and takes a really wide Ishan 10, but the shapes aren't great because you're going to end up on a pair somewhere. Double pair.
I'd almost like to call for Tempai and be able to switch one of those pairs out to a Yamen shape.
Yeah, if you would have thrown the 5 instead of the 7, could have had a path to Itsu, but.
Hmm. Here's our first door drawn by John, who decides to keep it. Add an extra tile to discard. And,
And now we
well,
have dealer Tempai waiting on the 4-so.
great pickup. 1-4-so out, 3 still left in the wall. And John's getting close to having to make a decision about that door tile. Doesn't fit currently, but maybe just hanging on to it. You can make it your pair eventually.
Well, Stanley decides to break the ice and throw the first one. And now Ada upgrades to a nice Ipeco, maybe even a Chitoitsu.
Well, interesting from John discarding that one mon, dropping back a Shanten.
And that is Chitoitsu Tempai. Could Riichi, I guess the 7 pin would be a terrible weight. And the 3 so would have 2 left.
Chooses the better
And
looking
there
three
are
so.
2 3 so, but one is in Austin's hand right now, so there's only one in the wall. We'll see if the faith of Sanso is good enough for Riichi Tanya Chitoitsu.
You can drop the 5 here now that it's safe, and now you've got a wider weight 1-4. So
Yeah, you're feeling pretty good about a 1-4 so, especially with only 3 of them out at this point.
well, now there's a little bit of a Suji trap. The 6 so came out from Ada's hand. There's nobody who really wants to discard that.
Gee,
And meanwhile, Stanley says, yeah, I think I'll just take Tempai, because I'm not sure this is going to end, but I'd like to at least get some payments out of it. Ooh,
This is a
interesting
nice
with
draw.
the 4. That's a frustrating thing to draw, but you have a Kabe of the 3 pin, so it's actually pretty safe.
Yep, chooses to switch to the 3-6 weight. Now the 3s are dead, but the 6 is still alive. And
But in
Sumo
the
found.
meantime, the very last draw for Austin hits the Sumo for the 1500 plus the Homba plus the Ricci stick and is very close to first place now. So we move into the second Homba of South 3. Dealer has pretty nice shape in pin, a Dora, a couple of Yonman, but needs something to put it together. The 5 blocks just aren't there yet. Off to the right, we have, well, a couple pairs in so and pin, but really a whole bunch of useless honors. The hand looks pretty bad. Across from us, we have a distant 789 Sanshoku, but really you expect a bunch of stuff's going to be thrown towards the end. Maybe ends up as a Ricci Pin Futanya, but a long way away. And off to the left, we have a couple pairs. That 5 mon improves the shape in mon, but you also have a Dora, so you're looking for something to connect there and maybe just call for Haku Dora 3.
Yeah, we see one Dora in each of Ada, Austin, and Stanley's hands. Although Ada does choose to discard her Dora quite early.
I don't like the early Dora discard, because especially the 9, so it doesn't actually go in anything yet.
Especially if you're hunting for value here. Yakai Dora 3 sounds like such a good plan. And well, this is good.
Ooh, nice draw there for Austin. Upgrade to the Peiko chance.
Maybe once again dreaming for Yanpeiko.
Would be nice. If you can draw that 6 mon, I'm absolutely thinking about it.
And Austin would be exceedingly happy to pull ahead of John here. Austin with negative 25.3 after the first 2 games, with a big first, could find themselves with a very solid in solid position heading into that last game. Take the second
Right, you'd be
position.
looking at them. If the scores ended as they are now, Austin would be a little bit behind going to the last game. If Austin can jump over John, then obviously that makes the gap significantly easier. But
Hatsu
there's a
paired
really
up.
nice. Well, the Hatsu's kind of nice, but you're not quite sure what to do with it. Takes the Ishanten for Chitoitsu, thinking that Dora may actually end up being useful.
Oh, well, that's a little unfortunate, drawing the 4 pin immediately.
That is the curse of Chitoitsu. If you don't have 2 pairs you discard, it's not really a Chitoitsu hand, is it?
That's absolutely right. It feels like every Chitoitsu hand, you always end up with at least 2 pairs in your discard, and sometimes you end up with more, and that's just the absolute worst.
Yeah, so I love the Ishanten that John has right now, but not drawing that last tile. Looking at that pond, it's beautiful. You don't have any information out there. Goes ahead and says, okay, fine, I'll take the dumb 1,000 Tanyao, waiting on the 2-5 mon.
Yeah, not the worst result, though, for John, advancing the dealership away from Austin, who's trying to surpass him right now, getting us
What's
one step closer to all last.
Well, it's a big deal making sure that you get that plus 15 as opposed to him. That's a
Hmm.
10-point swing against your direct competition for that second spot.
G.
So Ada calling here. We are getting late and has the potential to make Sanshoku here,
Gee.
choosing to discard 3 mon.
And Austin says, yeah, I'll take K10. That's perfectly fine with me. I don't need anything from this hand. And Ada ends up with K10 on her own. So
Yeah,
the
Austin
only
can't.
person with an actually valid hand here is John, who will throw a tile that doesn't actually deal into anyone.
Austin can find a value tempai if they were to draw the 9 mon. Can make a backdoor Itsu.
Well, is now looking at it and going, well, everything's going to be 4E10 anyway, so what do I want to throw that's relatively safe? And Stanley's sitting here going, why won't the Chitoitsu finish? And the correct
Mhm.
answer is because it's Chitoitsu, it never finishes.
You can see 1-2 pin in the pawn is wondering where the rest are. Well, they're not in the hands. They're in the wall somewhere. And John switching up the weight. Now 4 mon 8, so Champon. The 2 5s were
Figuring
just not coming
the
out.
2-5 are probably squeezed at this point, hoping the 8-so comes.
We see the last door come out, so that's no longer a possible pair for Stanley.
Last turn, we're going to have 3 people tempai. Oh, 2 people tempai. I didn't realize that Ada had broken hers. Trying to fish for that Tanyao, but instead giving up on the tempai payments, pushing even farther down into 4th place. But
Look at this
looking at
hand.
this hand, yeah, as dealer, I wish I had more value, but I guess I'll take it. So very likely Hatsu only. You probably call this through the 5-8. And you're feeling pretty good about it. Off to the right, we have maybe a 2-3-4 Sanshoku. Some decent shapes there. Really need a 3-mon. Across from us, we have a few pairs. Dora, maybe an Itsu in So, maybe an Ipeiko now in So. And off to the left, we have overlaps on the shapes in Pin and a Penchon in Mon.
A decision here for Austin. Which side do you want? Chooses the one that can call the 1 mon. You'd think that'd be a
Yes, you
little bit
figure the
easier
1
tile.
mon, especially with a 2 mon coming out from someone already.
And immediately draws the 4 pin, which could have given a perfect Ishan 10. That's okay. Still probably the closest to Tempai at this point from Austin's perspective. You can't imagine anyone's going faster than you.
No, when you look at that hand and say, I'll take the cheap hand, you have to figure your way ahead of everyone.
4 pairs for John, and this is a
Well,
bit
we have a
awkward.
tempai, so waiting on the 6-9 so for the Hatsu only, but you do have that 900 in the middle, which is even as dealer more than half a Han by itself.
Be interesting to see how John's hand develops because he's got a lot of those tiles that deal in and can incorporate them with a Chitoitsu, but outside of that, it's looking
Could also
really
go for
awkward.
an Itsu if you draw the 7 so.
Yeah, and in that case, you might be discarding 8 so 9 so. Here's another
Well,
pair.
that feels a lot more like a Chitoitsu draw and sells out on it. Says, okay, I accept it.
Yeah, a pair of Dora now as well. Those 4s are Dora and chooses correctly the 5.
And there's the immediate backfire. Never believe in Chitoitsu.
But we have yet to see if it will come to fruition at 6, so looking so
Really
dangerous.
nice Ishanten now for Ada, for Richi, Pinfu, Tanya, Sanshoku.
Oh, Tempai now. Which weight do you choose?
If you choose the 6,
Yeet.
we know it deals in.
Wow.
Throws the 5, which honestly looks pretty cheap on the board given everyone throwing pin tiles.
Well, we see 2 6 so in hand, so 1 remains in the wall. Not the easiest to win on, but
There's also that 1-9 so, which Austin would win on, but
Ada calls into Tempai, waiting on the 5 8 so. Many of those have been discarded.
yes, and the 5 so is Sanshoku as well.
You don't need bad, and you don't really want to switch away from 5, 6, 7 here. So
Yeah, I'd throw the 4. Oh, goes ahead and throws the slightly safe. Oh, yep, there it is. That's the last 9. So, and that is the sumo for 500 all plus the home bus, so 800 all and the Ricci stick. And gets another hand that says, I need to get filled in with a 6-pin or a 2-pin, and immediately draws the 6-pin. So the hand looks decent. Off to the right, we have 4 pairs, including Yakuhai, very likely callable. Could go for the Chitoitsu as well, though much less likely after filling that Kanchan. Across from us, we have not much. It's one of those hands that looks like it could be really good with a couple good draws, like that, but it's just not quite there yet. And off to the left, we have a hand that desperately needs a 3, so it doesn't have that much value yet.
well, as you were describing those hands, Austin's has been coming together. Look at all these beautiful pins that he's drawn.
Well, we have a
Ishanten already for
Ricci.
Itsu.
We have a Ricci here on the Dora for 8 so Haku, and I bet that Haku comes out pretty soon.
Oh, Austin's in trouble. And there it is.
Yeah, it's no question. I mean, you're going to deal that every single time. Ricci, Apatsu, Haku. And remember, there's still that 4 Humba in the middle, so it's 6,400. And
Well,
most
Austin-
importantly, it pushes Stanley over the 30,000 threshold. So first place will only get +9 unless that changes.
Yeah, and speaking about placements, Austin had worked so hard on his dealership to grab that first place spot from John, but all for naught. And that last hand drops back below and actually in danger of falling to third.
Yeah, you can't do anything about that when you're stuck and have to throw the Haku there for a Ricci 3-sided way. Anyway, moving on to all last, we have dealer with some pairs, specifically a Yakuhai pair. We have a beautiful Mon shape, but needs to get everything else together. Maybe something connected to the Dora. Across from us, we have maybe a 789 Sonshoku, decent shapes in pin, maybe an Apeiko, and off to the left, we have another hand that just a couple draws away from really coming together, and that 6-pin helps immensely.
And looking at that south pair, Stanley is totally fine with winning this hand without too much damage. Just wants to keep going. I mean, Stanley doesn't even need to necessarily win this hand, so maybe not going to try to push too hard.
Well, yes, if you're Stanley, you'd like to stay out of the fight between second and third, but you'd also kind of like to win this. And this is a pretty nice Ishan 10. You'll just throw the... I would throw the Forso here and take the Ryan-Kun.
Interesting. Maybe hoping for Ipeco. We've seen a lot of players dreaming about that Ipeco.
But in the meantime, draws the 3-so that was stuck on, and now waiting on the 3-6 pin for Ricci only to win the match. Importantly, though, it's a cheap hand, so it will likely result in 3 people over 30,000.
Which a positive finish helps all players except for Ada.
Yeah, Ada couldn't afford to take a big fourth. Could afford to take a fourth, but this is going to be minus 33-ish, so you're a lot. You need 50 at best, even for that third spot.
At this point, you can't really fold here. You have to keep pressing, try to get a few more points before that.
Eeler is Tempai now. Can wait on the Gimbutsu 5-pin.
And I wonder how hard Austin wants to push this Ishantown as well.
Well, Austin's kind of in a rough situation because this is who he's fighting with for that second place spot, and I think this deal's in. Like, I didn't see how you get away from throwing the 3 or the 6. And it will deal in for Ricci. And no Ura. So with that, John takes first place in this third match. Austin is second, Stanley is third, and Ada is fourth. But the important thing is everyone is over that 30,000 threshold. So the UMA is 951 minus 15.
Yeah. I believe if you're all the players at this point, you want to take a breather in between this game and the last game, this upcoming game and the last game, and analyze the scores, calculate exactly what needs to happen for you to advance. And if you're not in currently in one of the top two places, you're looking closely at that third slot and deciding what you need to hit that.
Well, it's really important because Austin's condition is pretty clear now. All he has to do is get third, but he can't get too far down and is basically right at the same level that the other match's third place was. So as long as you end up positive, you are safe. If you end up negative, you are almost certainly not going to qualify. So
Yeah,
it's not first or second, it's whether you're 30K. If you're third and 32K, that's good enough.
that other match mark was negative 16.8. So just by placement bonus alone, uh, Austin could surpass or fall. Although,
There is a very niche opportunity to end up third with above 28,900 if everyone aside from one person is above 30K because you would only have the -1 from the UMA.
and well, if it was a first place above 30K and the remaining three were below, the UMA there is plus 15, minus 1,
Right, you'd only
minus
lose
5,
the
minus 9.
one and you have a 2 point buffer.
So that's the one awkward place if you get second, but a negative second. It's really tight. And
Yeah,
Aus-
that you're that you don't want to even have to think about that. A
yeah, Austin's
28,000 second is not enough.
So from Austin's perspective, the goal is clear. Finish positive. All
Yep,
you
get
need to do.
30K. That's your target.
From John's
And I know
perspective,
Austin's played enough tournaments to know how this works. I'm sure he's done the math and figured out the same conditions we're talking about right now. If you're John, you're basically like, I just don't take a big fourth and I'm in. Because again, you don't have to take second in this match. You have to get over that third place target point.
yeah, 16.8, so about 42 points to spare. Yeah,
Math on screen. What can go wrong?
Stanley just needs to end the game. And for Ada, this is the real challenge.
Yeah, if you're Stanley, you just don't care. Stay out of the fire. Even if you end up at 15,000 fourth, you're perfectly fine. You have to drop 80 point fourth. So as long as your final score is above zero, you are at no risk whatsoever. So you're just big chilling this whole time. If you're Ada, on the other hand, you need a big win. You need a plus 60. So you probably need a Yakuban. If you get a dealer rampage, that would also do it. But even if you win with a Yakuman and end up plus 55,000, that's not enough. That's the horrible position she's in right now.
So it would need to be a first, which automatically gives 15, and you just need plus 45 beyond. So you're looking at a 70.
75,000 roughly.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
so
good luck
difficult.
with that. That's why
Well,
I say you're really looking for a Yakuman at this point. Again, a dealer rampage can do it. We've had sessions where people
mm,
got over 75,000, but really, it's just rough.
well, if there's anybody to go for that, it certainly feels like Ada is the right person. We've seen some very aggressive play from Ada throughout the first few matches, and aggression is exactly what you need in this type of position. You just have to go all out.
And it looks like the players taking a break, so I think the commentary team will take a break until the game starts, which won't be long. See you in about 20 seconds.
Sounds good.
Well, it says it's at 11:11 my time, and it's not 11:12. So there it goes.
Perfect
Just some
timing.
delay. And we look at these hands. We have Ada with not particularly good shapes. Maybe shift to a Mon Honitsu, but you're looking for big wins, and that doesn't look like one. Off to the right, we have probably
Boom.
Richie Pinfu, maybe at a Dora, really looking for a 5-mon to improve it. Across the way, we have a Honitsu
Boom.
with double Yaku High. As you can see, the two calls immediately, and pretty decent shapes other than that. And off to the left, we have a hand that doesn't have much value until you get those two Dora in there. The question is, how do you integrate it? And the Tanya would be a really nice pickup with a
Wow.
2-stroke.
Look at that call.
Speaking of, wow, we are already tempai. John is waiting on the 5-pin for Mongon.
3 Yaku
And of
High
course,
calls.
if you draw the 6-pin or the 4-pin, you can take the Toy shift or even the 7-pin of the 3-sided weight where the 6-pin adds Toy. That's the kind of hand Ada needs right now, especially
Exactly.
as dealer.
You know, as we've been looking around the hands, it seems like we've been saying Ada with rough starting tiles with rough high pie a lot, and she's been making do with it. She's been turning those rough starting hands into fighting hands. Kind of working on one right now. Ishan 10 now. But
Yeah, needs the 3-pin probably twice. Well,
Oh.
doesn't matter now. Shut down, and that's the 5-pin for the dealer for the sumo against Ada's dealer, costing her 4,000 points, and that's the worst position.
Worst case scenario.
And we go into East 2. Dealer has a bunch of pairs, probably a Tanya shape. You can add some Dora, great. Off to the right, we have, wow, that's a beautiful hand. It's Ishan 10. The question is, how greedy do you want to be for the 5, 6, 7 Sunshoku? Across the way, we have a completed shape in So and decent elsewhere, but really needs a couple more to come together. And off to the left, we have a Haku pair and possibly Chanta upgrades.
Well, for Austin, we said his goal was to finish positive, and with that sumo, he's dipped below 30,000, so needs to get something. And I like
There are a lot of hands still, but that's of course not what you want to start off with. We also don't have much of a choice. When someone sumos that, you're like, ugh, and move on.
not much could have done about that, and I like the hand. Can call for Tanyao and just advance to another dealership.
Ooh,
Fortunately-
interesting play there by John. Decides to cut from the Onko. This will be a Richie Pinfu and probably Sunshoku option.
Austin making that first call.
There it is, Richie Pinfu.
Yeet.
And on one side it's Dora, and on the other side it's Sunshoku. That's a great shape.
Well, John starting off hot here. 2 excellent hands to begin the day, if he can pull off the finish.
And Ada goes ahead and basically says, we're going for the Chanta now. Oh, maybe not. What do you cut, the 7-9 Mon? That's what I'd do.
Yeah, that's the most awkward shape, but
Oh, discards into the Richie Pinfu Sunshoku and
Hakame.
continues the tumble down. But John is now looking in excellent position to advance to the B1 League.
yeah, for John, who just needed to finish positive, well, finishing first is certainly positive.
That's the easiest way to do it. And looks at this hand and says, well, I have a Yaku High, something connected to Dora. A couple things need to fill in, but it's not bad. Off to the right, we have a probable Ipeco shape in Pin, but an annoying Penchon in Mon. Across the way, we have some shapes that haven't really come together yet, but 2 Dora, so just some Tanya draws for good. Off to the left, we have a couple pairs, and not much is coming together. I think we have a stream freeze. We're going to refresh.
Yeah, perhaps we'll come back to dealer with a called hot set of Haku.
Nope,
quite yet,
still
not
stuck in the
found.
hand. But in the meantime, Stanley's hand looks to have developed quite a bit. Not
Yeah,
quite Ishan 10, but a really good shape.
Can make a very fast Tanya.
Well, now
and
it's Ishan 10.
that's all Stanley's looking for. Just advance the dealership, moves on to the finish.
And
Well,
you're always thinking about your win condition the whole game during the final match of a playoff. Oh, perfect draw there. Could go for the Ricci, Pinfu, Tanyao, Ipeko, Dora. Instead says, that's too much. We're going to take the weight, the three-sided weight with the 4, 7, 8. Unfortunately, the 7 pin's dead. The 4 pin doesn't look that good. And the 8 pin could come out any minute.
Ada holding on to one of those was also looking for the 7 and doesn't realize that those are locked away. Austin with a kind of interesting hand here keeps drawing Manzu, but refuses to discard the Sozutiles just yet. There's a chance to turn this into
John is
Sananko.
back. John is backed into an Ishan 10, but would probably go for a lot more. Oh my goodness, look at Austin's hand. I think you just go for the Chinitsu at this point. Decides, no, that's a little too greedy.
Well, maybe
and takes
Suako.
the. Well, that would be one way to do it. Right now, it's. Is that even Tempai? No, it's not.
Real close. If you draw the 9-mon or the 4-mon, or well, here's a 5-mon.
There's your backfire.
9-mon, 4-mon, 5 so.
Jeez, you just wish you'd have the 2 and the 5-mon here for the Chinitsu. Ugh.
That would be enough value for sure.
Well, that is now an Ishan 10 across the way for Ada.
Using to discard the 3-mon, though.
The 3 is not what I would have discarded. I had to throw in the 8.
But perhaps looking to make, force some type of Sanshoku.
Well, Ada has to do something at this
Right.
point because you just don't have that much time. You need a huge win.
Tempai found for John, and Austin can call.
Yeah, that's the problem, is this will shut down Austin. As if Austin somehow gets to Suanko Tempai, that 8-mon will come out.
And it does
anyway. That will deal in for the 40 Fu 2000. Now we move on to the Hombo 1 of these 3. And dealer has 3 pairs. You draw a 7, so you're feeling pretty good about it. You have a Dora, but needs a little bit of work. Off to the right, we have a beautiful shape in Pin, Penchon in Mon. Little bit can improve, but you're happy with that to start with. Across the way, we have a couple really nice shapes. You have that extra floater honors, but I like that hand a lot. And off to the left, we have, well, not much. Kanchan Hell. When you look at the hand and see an 8, which is connected to a 5, and a 6, which is connected to 9s, and no other even tiles, you just, yeah.
Well, John picking up another pair, up to 4, including a pair of the Dora 2-pin. Turn this into Toy Toy, or perhaps Chitoy. Wait and see. One of those doors is in Ada's hand, and of course, she desperately needs to include as many of those as she can. Picking up a 4-pin, so creating another shape here. Leaning into Tanya and perhaps Pingfu.
Yes, you'd like to upgrade to some sort of Sanshoku, but I'm not really seeing it. And that
There's a Penchon fill.
Yeah, it makes the hand really cheap, though. I'm not seeing how you're getting anything from this, but you could always go Ricci, Sumo, Dora, and an Aura would do it.
Yeah, perhaps going to hang on, wait until a 4-mon can be drawn.
And Stanley has an interesting Ishan 10, says, we'll just go for the Tainyo and the okay, that's how you improve this for Ada. Say, you know what, why don't we upgrade to Ipeko Dora 2? And there is Tempai waiting on 3 so for Stanley.
No reach required here. Kanchan wait. Comes out immediately, unfortunately for Ada. Just 1,300 plus Homba.
Is the stream a little fuzzy for anyone else?
Just a bit for me. We move on to Stanley's dealership.
And you look at Stanley's hand and go, there's a little bit there of a Dora, probably a Tanya type hand. Maybe an Itsu with that 2-mon draw. Off to the right, we have standard Pinfu type shapes. Things really aren't that close together, so you're hoping for a little bit more. Across the way, we have a Yakuhai pair a really nice pin shape and some decent options in so. And off to the left, we have a bunch of pairs in pin and probably a Tanyao type shape overall.
Yeah, across the way looks really nice. Picking up a Hatsu pair now. This could be the fastest hand at the table, but
The question
one,
is, how greedy do you want to be with it?
one of each of those honor tiles has already been discarded.
Well, I think the standard cut would be like the Forso.
You have 4 pairs, so maybe discarding one of those. Chooses
You
instead of
don't
5
want to go.
pin.
You don't want to go Cheetoy with this, and you're not really seeing much value. But this is the problem Austin has. He knows his goal is to get 30,000, and a cheap hand really doesn't do that for him. And even now, he has to think about the Haku.
Boom.
Normally, you just grab it immediately. He has to think about it for a bit.
Yeah, past the first one, calls the second. And now decision time. Again, hanging on to those pairs.
Ooh, wow!
Maybe thinking about Toy Toy to get
Yeah,
full
that
extra value.
seems very greedy given what I'm seeing here. The 4-so and the 6-so are always going to be really hard. It may be more of a Honitsu shift, but I think I'd just play this a lot more direct, even given the win condition. Well, if the answer is just sumo, that's one way to handle it. What you'd really like is a Chun to upgrade this to a Shosangan.
That would be excellent. We see one Shun already discarded, so still 3 left on the wall. It's
And
definitely
yes,
not.
it's a hard commit to a Honitsu now with the 6-pin cut.
Yeah, hanging on to the west and that 8, so definitely making his intentions clear. And now a 3-so picked up. That's pretty good. Who can fight this? It looks like Stanley's got a little bit of work to do still.
Off to the right is the closest hand by far, but there's no value for Ada.
Ada, who's desperately seeking value.
I mean, if you draw the 3-mon, that would at least get Pinfu, but when your only value is, if we draw the right thing, we get Pinfu, you're hoping for better than that.
Ranjan as well. John on the left is Ishan 10. And fortunately, those a lot of pairs
Also
still.
doesn't have much value here, and maybe that's what Austin was doing, was reading the table, saying, maybe I have a lot more time than I think I do. And now is a decision, do you go in for the Hellweight Shosangan Honitsu and says, maybe.
Yeah, two of those red dragons have been found. One discarded by John, and then one in Austin's hand. So there's still one remaining in the wall for that possible Shosangan.
Oh, and this 5-so is probably coming out. It'll get called, and then you just give up on it.
Gee.
Here it is. Tempai now for Austin.
With the Hatsu 6-so, where Hatsu is Mangan. But in the meantime, we have a Chitoi Ishan 10 for dealer.
So that's how that hand progressed. It looked awkward for a while, but finding pairs as the solution.
Well, when he cut the 7-so into that obvious Honitsu, that was probably the tell.
And Stanley doesn't really need to fight against this Honitsu, but doesn't really care if he deals in either. He's in such a commanding position.
Yeah, and Ada just continues to flail looking for more value, and it's just not there.
With some different cuts, there's perhaps opportunity for this hand from Stanley to shift into a more normal-looking one, but refuses to discard that 9-so.
Well, okay, Ada does manage to get it to Tempai. Could probably reach you with a 5-pin, hoping the 2-pin comes out.
And Austin has to deal into that. 2-pin does not fit.
Well, we also have, it may
draw.
come right now. Might come out right now from the dealer.
It does.
Yeah, Richi Apatsu no Dora, but no Aura either. So not even that much of a big swing for anyone. Ada is, of course, when you get the Apatsu, you're like, yes, this is big value, and it's really not.
Well, that was about the best Ada could expect from that hand, other than hoping for a dealer repeat, but advances on to the second dealership, and we'll see if Ada can go on her run. This has to be it right here. Outside of a Yakuman, dealer run is the best chance of being able to pull into that third
and
spot.
starts off with a couple pairs, but again, just not a very fast hand. Needs to pair up some sort of Yakuhai and start calling. Off to the right, we have possible Itsu, possibly Peiko, possible, I don't know, even Sanshoku, but now with that 4-pin, you're thinking this is probably going towards Itsu. That's where the value is. You still have that Dora, though, so you're fine with that anyway. Across the way, we have 2 pairs and 2-4 in every suit. Yuck. Off to the left, we have a Haku pair and possibly incorporating the Dora, but it looks like a fairly cheap hand. Maybe some value. Now that 8-pin that was drawn by Austin really increases the value of this hand. Now you have the Peiko option, you have the Itsu option, and maybe even both if you draw like 9-mon.
We saw an early call from Ada as well. Speculative 5-mon call, but maybe getting rewarded by pairing up the Chun. So can hopefully call that and grab a dealer repeat. Oh,
Okay,
Austin.
Austin says full steam ahead. We're going Shinitsu.
Looks like Ada has an 8-pin that isn't incredibly useful at the moment.
Which will probably be called by Austin because it finishes off that 6-7 shape.
One more tile that Kitty can't really use is that Haku, and that comes out right away. Stanley passing the call there.
But Ada is looking also for a pair because you're going to have to call the Chun to make something from this.
Well, now drawing Dora, that would be an ideal pair.
Well, unfortunately, there's only one left in the entire wall because we see 2 discarded.
Well, this is another way to make a pair. Call the 6-so. You can make the 5-so your pair and call the Chun for value.
You'd really love to integrate Toy Toy into this, but you'll take anything you can get at this point.
Well, 7-so.
Okay, that's how you do it. You cut the 4, you take the Tenpai, and hope the Chun comes out. Not only to win the hand for 2,900 or maybe more with the Sumo, but also to shut down that scary Chinitsu on your dealer turn.
Well, John drew the Chun, but reconsiders dropping it, chooses instead the 7-mon, perhaps afraid of that Honitsu Chinitsu.
Yeah, you're afraid of the Honitsu much more than the dealer. You don't think dealer has it. Maybe a Toy Toy here, but they just look deadly against that.
And this is a problem for Ada, who is Otozuka on the Chun. The Chun's not going to come out from these other players because Austin's been going so aggressive. So this puts...
and this will come out, and that will put a Tonki weight, because you're obviously calling this. Could throw the 7-pin here, and there are 2 8-pin left, and as we can see, they're both in the wall.
Well, one of those left in the wall is, as we see, one has already been called by Austin, one in Stan's discard. So might upgrade that to another if possible.
No, interesting draw there for Stanley. Could probably cut the West pair. Yes, does. Figuring you can now call the Haku, the last one that comes out, or honestly, either of the 7s and go Otozuke. Ooh, that 4-pin's scary. I'm throwing, yeah. Oh, terrible.
The wrong side.
And goes ahead and says, okay, we'll just throw the Dora, which is surprisingly one of the safest tiles in the wall right now.
The only person who hasn't discarded it is Stanley. And the last one comes out from Austin.
And Ada's thinking, well, maybe if I... Oh.
You switch here.
I definitely would have thrown that 1. You can't give up your last dealer. You just can't do it.
Well, now that's Austin's winning tile.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't when it came.
It wasn't when it came.
So you have to throw it. That is just a blunder. And unfortunately, that is probably the end of Ada at this point.
At this point, it looks like
we move
Yakuman
into South.
Bust.
Yeah, as we move into South 2, we have dealer with a Yakuhai pair, maybe something connected to Dora, maybe Chanta even. Off to the right, we have really nice shape in pin, couple extra floaters, looks like a fairly standard type hand. Across the way, we have a few pairs, 3, and really needs the 3-so to improve the hand. Off to the left, we have what is probably an Itsu, maybe a Pinfu or a Tanya with a Dora. And that 3-so will fix your pair, so you're really looking for Itsu now.
In the meantime, Austin has picked up an Anko of the Southwind, which is Yakuhai, and with the template payments at the end there, that was actually a massive 3,000 points. Austin's only 1,000 away from a positive finish over 30,000. And remember, that's all Austin needs out of this game. Finish
Right.
positive.
Well, even if the game actually froze right now and ended, that would be enough to advance by, I believe, 0.1.
It would be an incredibly small margin. There's still 2 rounds after Austin's dealership, so I imagine he's looking to rack up as many points as he can right here and right now. Look to the right. That hand is Ishanten already.
Well, the
John,
hand that's looking the best is actually Ada's right now. Ricci, Pinfu, Tanyao, Dora.
right, but is that enough for Ada? You don't really want to call this.
I think she may just be resigned to getting fourth at this point.
It is a difficult mountain to climb, and
Each.
well, Tempai now for John. 2-5 pin. Just reach Shinomi. There is no door in hand.
Right. When you have those Ryanman shapes all runs, you're like, yeah, we have Pinfu, and you're, oh, wait, I have a Yakuhai pair. Well, oh well. Now, Austin here is in an interesting situation. You know he wants to fight this because he does not want a big sumo on his dealer turn. Now, if he saw what John actually had, he wouldn't be nearly as concerned. But you have to balance your own risk levels. That 4-pin may end up helping him a lot, but honestly, 8 is going to push everything, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, awkward shapes and
Ooh, goes and
Cons
takes
it.
the con.
Oh, this is so aggressive from Austin.
Well,
This-
it's an extra foo by itself, but when you're in this type of Vishanten, it's so scary. Felt he needed the next draw. And now is the decision, what do you throw, the 4 or the 8? If it deals in, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, that's such a difficult balancing act. Do you con for the extra draw immediately, or do you and risk allowing Austin, or rather John, to hit more Udadora? Well, in any case,
And that's a great result for Austin.
yeah,
Doesn't
bailed out
lose
there.
anything on his dealer turn, and Ada picks up a decent amount to actually take over third. And going into South 3, we'll look at the dealer hand. It's a Tanya, really needs some 7-pin. Bunch of stuff in the middle of pin for that to come together. Feels a lot slower than it looks. Off to the right, we have a Haku pair and some pretty good shapes. Across the way, we have very standard Pinfu type hand. You have a bunch of extra honors, but the shapes themselves look wonderful. Off to the left, we have double Yakuhai pair. And the hand looks pretty fast, which, considering what Austin needs, is perfect.
Yeah, no dreams of any type of dragon business here. We see the Haku already owned by Stanley. Perfectly happy to call for a super fast hand.
Well, especially if
Awesome.
you can get 2,000 here, that means a Mongun Sumo by anyone other than dealer in South 4, and he's still good. Now, that 4-mon is a really aggressive play.
Still maintaining all of these pairs. I guess you're kind of choosing your Kanchan, although the one in the Suzu is a little overlapping. And well, that's another pair.
Okay, he's going for Toy Toy, or maybe even just more foo here. I still don't like the cut. It worked out for him. I don't like it.
We'll see.
Meanwhile, dealer is looking pretty close in a nice Ishan 10, but the shapes are pretty bad. Off to the right, we have basically the same type of thing. Pair, 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 pair. How does it connect? And you really need the 5-8. And the problem is you need it twice. Well,
There's a
there's
5.
one. So now upgrades to perfect Ishan 10. Decides not to take it.
Hanging on to that safe west. And well, Austin has the 6-7-7-8 shape now. So
Could
can
cut
still
the 7 and take his own perfect Ishan 10. Or could continue selling out for that Toy Toy, but it's getting later and you see another person open.
now decides to discard the 4-mon earlier, pulls it back, and decides to keep it this time.
You'd
Really?
like more than 2,000, but 2,000 is, as far as I'm concerned, what you're aiming for this hand. And now regrets the four mon discard earlier, and we have Tempai for the quick 1,000 by
There it
Stanley.
is.
Well, but yeah, that's gonna deal in.
Dom.
And that's the worst case scenario for Austin, as now I believe he is under the point count he actually needs. As I recall, it was 28,900 second with everyone under 30K, and that's where we are right now.
My goodness. So this is really tense for Austin in the last round.
And he does not get the hand to really help. He gets 2 completed shapes. But we'll go around the table like normal, starting off with Stanley. Few pairs. You just play, relax. You take a 4th. You don't care. You have a huge buffer off to the right. Ada says, well, we'll go for Chinitsu. We need something. Across the way, as mentioned, you have 2 completed shapes, but not much else. Ooh, I don't like that 8 mon cut at all. Are he going Kokushi? Oh, no, he has the West pair, which would actually be enough. I wonder how much he's paying attention to the actual scores. Because he should be aware that a standard 1,000 point hand is enough, but you have to have actually done that math.
Well, here's a
Well, if you have
Haku
2,
pair.
yeah, if you have 2 Han, then you probably don't have to think about it at this point, because that'll get you that 30K. But in the meantime, dealer has an Ishanten for Toy Toy.
Let's see. I'm 1 mon, 1 2 mon in Ranjan's hand, and the North Wind. Oh, not seen yet.
What the heck?
Oh no.
Austin may have... Did I mess up on the math?
I think your math was pretty good. Well, Tempai for Stanley here. This is incredibly fast for a Toy Toy, and a good weight too. That North Wind. It really does look like Austin's going for Kokushi here.
Yeah, and I don't get it, because that's terrible. He just needs the quick 1,000 point hand, and that's good enough.
Might not be aware of that 3rd placement position.
May not be aware that, yeah, that there is that extra option out there, figuring he has to take 2nd, and we need a huge hand over John to overtake.
Well, with that perspective in mind, this would totally make sense. And now we see both of the North Wind in hand for Ada and Austin. Ada,
Well, it's not coming out of Austin's hand, but it certainly could come out of Ada at any time.
And then as far as the 2 mon is concerned, 1 in John's hand and 1 still left in the wall. Feels like Stanley's hand to win here, though.
The 4 so is an easy call there. Ada upgrades. Still needs some help, though.
Austin still on that Kokushi planet, looks like.
Yeah, I think Austin just sold out on the Kokushi.
Is there what type of direct hit would Austin need off of John?
Oh,
well, I don't think it
doesn't
matters.
matter.
We have a sumo for 3,900 with a 1,300 all, and that makes everyone's hand just a little bit harder and pushes Stanley into a tie for 2nd place. Well, as we go around the table this time, dealer again has pretty good shape, especially with that 3-pin. Now you have Richi, Tanyao, Sanshuku. Off the right, we have possibly Peiko shapes, but cutting that North pair from the start suggests 8 is going for something strange, which, given the score, is perfectly understandable. Across the way, we have Austin with maybe a 678 Sanshuku, maybe a Chinitsu, depending on how he's going to play this out. Off on the left, we have a Yakuhai pair. I think this is just a call tune, take Tempai, and be done with it.
Interesting to see how Austin plays this hand if he goes for that. I mean, if you're fighting for Kokushi in the last round, what are you fighting for this round? Maybe so I'll go with all these pairs or a large Chinitsu?
No, you're thinking Churen. If you've decided your win condition is a Yakuman, the only thing I'm seeing with this hand is Churen, and let you really start pairing stuff up quickly.
Well, lots of Monzu draws so far. And, well, the dealer also has a fast hand. 3, 4, 5
Dealer's
Sanshuku
hand is
potential.
just beautiful. You'd love to have this hand in a place where you need it more. And yeah,
Yes.
that 9-mon draw definitely looks like a Churen shift.
4 pairs. Would have had 5 with that pair of 7 so definitely not thinking Chitoi here. We want max value. And declining any Monzu calls. So
Yeah, that definitely looks like a Churen play. And
Well-
dealer now upgrades to Yishun 10 for Ipeiko Tanya. And doesn't take this Ipeiko Tanya Sanshiku, keeping that safe tile, figuring that nothing's going to be horribly wrong. Ooh, look at that 1-mon draw. He's actually starting to think about the
this is actually kind of close
Churen
now.
Yeah, you need. Well, no, it's not. You know why?
Ah,
リーチ
we see the 2 9-mon in Ada's hand and Chikuna's
Yes.
reach.
ポン
So you'll never actually complete the Churen here.
Yeah, and it
But
looks
in the
like
meantime, John says, okay, forget this. I have a big enough lead. If even if I deal to Ada, I'm fine with it. Give me that 4-7
Sumo.
pin tempai and draws it immediately, which does kick Austin up to second place with the sumo. But after having losing those points, I don't think that's enough to overtake and will not qualify for the A1 League. But congratulations to Stanley and John as they will advance to the B1 League.
and we'll get one more updated standings and we'll determine for sure whether or not Austin has made it. Looks like Austin is just a little bit shy, finishing negative 19.4, just barely under the mark set on the previous table, negative 16.8. So congratulations to Ash as well. It was the better score between the 2 third-place finishers.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. Austin knows better. I'm just not sure if anyone told him that third position was available, but I think it was an announcement, so he should have been aware.
Yeah, I believe it was announced, but it's easy to forget it. I think it was been almost 2 weeks since the beginning of the playoffs. So,
But yes, this is the last day of the official playoffs.
and this has officially been the last match of the playoffs. So we are complete. Every person has found themselves in the appropriate league, and I'm really excited to begin the second season in about a week's time.
Yes, this is the closing of the ARML Beta League. And we now have everyone established. We're starting to see pairings up on the website for the A1 and A2 leagues. And we will see what happens in a week. Everyone gets the next week off, and then we will start the first regular season.
And stay tuned to the ARML Twitch channel as we'll be providing coverage of some of the normal weekly session matches throughout the course of the league. I'll be trying to cover as many as I can. I'm sure you will as well. And Jeremy, broadcasting master, I'm sure he'll be working the production. Thank you for all your work in this broadcast.
Yes, thanks, Jeremy. It's gone relatively smoothly. And thanks, Nathaniel, for the co commentary. And I wish everyone a good evening and look forward to season 2. Thanks for watching, everyone.